Today we are doing the Noah's Ark ornament. Okay. December 4th's title is Rise. Genesis 6:5-8 says, "And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagining of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and creeping thing, and fowls of the air. For it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." And that was Genesis 6:5-8. In the midst of Advent, with the swags of cedar on porches and lights twisted up street lights, the headlines still spray across the face of the earth. They tear us open, and the world floods with pain. God feels with us. His heart was filled with pain, according to Genesis 6:6. God has a heart, and it hurts. It hurts with what hurts us. His heart hurts not just with a few drops of ache, not just with a slow drip of sadness. The whole expanse of his heart fills, swells, weighs dark with this storm of pain. And God whispers close to us in a hurting world. A mother whose heart is bound to her child's, that doesn't compare to how your Father's heart is bound to you, according to Isaiah 49:15. How did we ever find ourselves with the gift of finding favor with God? God who hung the stars, he has taken a thread of his heart and tied it to yours. And he didn't need to, but God tied his heart to yours so that when you feel pain, he feels it with you. The tears of God are the meaning of history, writes American philosopher Nicholas Walterstorff. When sin effectively ended our time with God in the garden, God could have effectively ended all time in the world. But history and time still unfold gifts because God chooses tears. The flood was the flood of God's grief, and the essence of time is the tears of God. Time only continues on this impossibly suffering world because God himself is willing to keep suffering the impossible with us. While other creeds endeavor to get us out of the world and into heaven, in Christianity, heaven comes down and Christ comes into this world to get us, to suffer with us. We find favor only because Christ feels pain. Christ comes like an ark, like a cradle over floods, and we read the headlines and wonder, if there is a God who really cares, he'd look at this world and his heart would break. And God looks to the cross, to the real tree, and says, my heart did. On that cross, they speared his side and pierced straight into his heart, filled with pain, and it was the water and blood of his broken heart that gushed right out, a flood of love. It's the quantum physics of God. One broken heart always breaks God's into two. God's heart breaks into two, to let us into the ark of his love. Every flood of stress is an invitation to get into the ark of our Savior. Every flood of trouble remakes the topography of our souls, making us better or bitter. Every trouble is a flood, and we can either rise up or sink down. And getting our days all into the ark of Christ always lets us still rise. Grace, it too has floods of its own. The way comes down so we can rise. Unwrapping more of his love in the world. Do one thing today just to please God. The quote she shares for today is, "Strange, this familiar father of prodigals, whose love, too much for one lifetime, wills that we shall share the feast of forgiveness and joy in the epilogue of eternity. Strange, this daily advent of Emmanuel." J.F. Wilson. A moment for reflection. When have you felt flooded, overwhelmed by the waters rising around you? In what ways has God been an ark in the midst of your own floods? How does it feel to picture the tears of God, to know that He suffers alongside you? It's crazy to think that God chooses to love us despite our sinful selves and give us grace even though we don't deserve it. And He could have ended time after the Garden of Eden, but He loved us too much to do so. So, with that, Trey, you want to come put Noah's Ark on our tree?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, son.
You're welcome.
All right, that's December 4th, and as always, let's keep our focus on Jesus.